My husband and I have been able to save 50% of our income for some time now. About 20% of that goes into retirement, and the rest we are actually putting towards our mortgage to pay it off early. We're on track to do that, hopefully within the next 2 years. And absolutely, the cost of living is out of control and has hindered that as well. But over the time of us being married and kind of developing our financial pathway, we have about 5 key ways that we do this and save the most money to help reduce the cost of living. So you can call them hacks, tricks, habits, whatever you want. But I know for sure what they do and what they are is money saving. The first concept I want to talk about is a skill that seems to be used less and less these days, and it's our conscious attention, paying attention to what's in front of us. I'll tell a story real quick just to emphasize my point. I was walking into an office building bathroom a few months ago, and somebody was walking out. I assure you, I was not walking at the pace of a cougar and trying to mow down the door. This person opened the door, and as she came out, I guess I startled her, which happens, and usually you go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." That's the typical way to circumvent that situation. However, she did not. She walked out and rolled her eyes directly in my face, about this far from me, to let me know how perturbed she was. Well, what I realized when I played the film back in my head was that she was walking out and her phone was right here. So obviously I'm going to scare the mess out of you if your attention is inside this phone that is plastered to your face. Let me talk a little bit about how paying attention can save you money. The first place where it can save a considerable amount of money is at the grocery store. For instance, one way is looking at the cost per unit, the cost per ounce, whatever the unit may be. Looking at this will always save you money because there can be some deceptions. Let me show you this. Just because something is on sale doesn't mean it's a good deal. I took a picture of cream cheese side by side when I was at the grocery store a few months ago. I want to show you the one on sale. Obviously, it's on sale. You must get it. Look here, 2 for $4. What does that break down to? That breaks down to 0.250 per ounce. If you look over at the 2-pack, which was not on sale, 0.249 per ounce. Yes, it's 1 penny. But my point, just because it's on sale doesn't mean it's the better deal. Always look at that unit price. It's going to help save you in the long run. Also look up and down. Don't automatically put your hand out and get whatever brand is at eye level. Typically what stores will do is they will put the product at eye level that is the highest profit for them. You can look up and look down because those are the places that you're not going to easily see, and usually those are the items that are the least amount of profit for them. Pay attention to that. Also pay attention to expiration dates. These things will bite you. They have bitten me when it comes to yogurt and lunch meat. You would expect that they would at least be within the time that they're good by, but I have gotten things that have been expired. Obviously, I contact the store back after that, but it's just a pain and a hassle. And if I had just taken a few extra seconds to find the expiration date, which obviously sometimes it's very hard to find. It's ridiculous. And check to see if I'm getting the one that's best, I would have saved time and obviously money. Now also you want to make sure that you're watching the scanner when you go to checkout, because make sure things are ringing up correctly, sales are being applied, coupons go through. Check the receipt as well when you leave. Make sure that you do this before you leave the parking lot. Go through it and make sure there's not any errors. If you do it before you leave the parking lot, you're more likely to be able to just easily run in, then go home and waste the gas and realize that there was a mistake made. I want to show you a slide from an article that I found on abcnews.go. It says that supermarket scanner errors can cost consumers up to $2.5 billion per each year. Now, the interesting thing is I couldn't find a newer article on this. I know there has been some done, but I couldn't locate it. This is all the way back in 2010 and was by Elizabeth Leamy and Vanessa Weber for GMA. It says the most common problems are sales not programmed into the register, scales that charge for the plastic package when they're just supposed to charge for the food, and stores that charge tax on non-taxable items. That is a huge amount of money. So paying attention at the checkout will pay off in the long run. Not just with your groceries, but also with your bank, your credit card statements, everything. Go through. You don't know what possibly could have been charged that could be incorrect. Maybe they added up the wrong tip when you were at a restaurant and you didn't write it clearly. You want to make sure you check these things. I remember back in the day watching my mom spend hours trying to find the one penny in her checkbook that she was off. We have gotten away from this due diligence because we no longer have to reconcile a paper with what we've written down. We can easily just glance at the account every day on our phone and things look okay. But if we want to sit down and make sure we're not having any crazy errors, we need to reconcile these things more often and pay attention to them. The second thing I want to talk about are the small things are actually big. Now you might hear some advice say, oh, it's not the small things that make a difference. Don't worry about your daily coffee, etc. It's the large things. Yeah, absolutely. Cutting large expenses, reducing large expenses, maybe getting a way better deal on insurance or refinancing your house or your car can make huge differences. But how many of those can you do before you can't do any more of them? It are the small charges. It's the small things. Now, I'm not saying don't have your daily coffee. If that daily coffee is important to you and you save money in other areas, then do that. Do what makes you happy. I'm talking about the small expenses that don't mean a lot to you. And sometimes you don't even recognize what they are or how much they add up to. You're going to have to be very specific. You're going to have to write down and track your expenses. Now, this is not simply just saying the store, the date, and the cost. That's not going to give you an idea of the consistent problem and help you drill down to it. You're not going to write something like Amazon, the date, book, the charge. A brief description, 1 or 2 words of what you purchased. If you just write down Walmart, CVS, Target, and the amount, you're really not going to remember clearly what you bought. For instance, let's say you had to go to CVS and get cold medicine. Well, that's going to be treated a little bit differently than if you went to CVS because you had to buy a birthday card and you spent $6.99 when you full well, you could have gone across the street to the Dollar Tree and gotten 7 birthday cards for that same cost. The small expenses add up to a lot. So what do you look for? Okay, so first category, daily treats. Going and maybe having that coffee multiple times a week, maybe grabbing a donut or a pastry from Panera, maybe getting a sweet tea, which is something I used to do back in the day. We get that all the time. It's my treat. Daily treats, they add up to a lot. Food, takeout food, grabbing lunch during the week, or going and having multiple trips to the grocery store because you didn't write a list or you didn't write a proper list and you forgot several items. Also, unused subscriptions. How many Audible credits do you have? This has happened to me before where I didn't pay attention to my Audible description, and that's audiobooks where you can listen to them and not have to read them. Well, you pay and you get a monthly credit towards a book. How many have you already gathered up because you just haven't been using it? When was the last time that you watched a Hulu or Netflix? Look at these unused subscriptions. These are the small leaks that are sinking the boat. Number 3 is one of my favorite tricks that I've done since 2020, and it's assuming that your consumables are out of stock or are going to be out of stock very soon, because you know what? It's absolutely possible. Do you remember when there was a TP shortage? How many people carefully pulled off just enough toilet paper at that time? Do you still do that? Or now do you just go, trying to make the noise? Don't ask me to do it again. Pulling the toilet paper and letting it all roll out and just ball it up and use that much. I bet you made that roll last longer in 2020 than you did in 2019 and that you do now in 2023. We can take this attitude or that attitude and put it in place with all consumables. This is a very Great Depression or era tip, that there was so little waste. So what if we did this? What if we acted as if the things we used were hard to come by? A lot of the time, people use more than they even need to or the recommended amount. Shampoo bottles will often say, a dime size, a pea-sized amount. How often do you squirt out more than a quarter? Or they don't use it properly. They spray on the multi-purpose cleaner onto the counter and they immediately wipe it off rather than letting it sit and do its job. What if we implemented a rule that we wouldn't open a new bottle of something, lotion, shampoo, until we completely ran out and used every bit of the one we were currently using? How much would that save us? What if every time we opened a bottle, we did so and made sure we got every last drop? I swear they make these bottles to where you leave 25% of the product. They somehow have a thing where they shape it a certain way where you can't get the bottom, or they're trying to make it to where you cannot, there's no way you can get that lid off. Well, you know what? I will get the lid off. I will use the last bit. The pump just can't reach some of that last 25%, but I'll get into it. Perhaps that's intentional and the bottle is shaped to maximize their benefits or maximize waste or make us buy more than we need. So what if we act as if we were about to have a shortage of something and we made sure we used it rather than being so wasteful? I guarantee you it's going to save you a lot of money. The third one I want to talk about is one that I have received the most comments from viewers on how they have implemented it in some shape or form, and it has been a huge help, and that is meal planning. Yes, don't click off the video just because I said that. Just hear me out, okay? Oh, you might say, oh, that's so boring. I don't like to be that strict. Okay, then skip this tip, move on to the next one. However, if you're still going over budget, eating out a lot, wasting considerable amounts of food, and aren't meeting your money goals, it might be worth considering. How can you make this not boring and easy? Super simple. You can plan your meals weekly or monthly, whichever is more helpful to you. The interesting thing is you don't have to eat the exact thing you planned for that day. The whole point is that you purchased the items that you needed to cook those particular meals that week. Make a list of family favorites. Set the plan based on those favorites. If they're family favorites, then people won't get bored. And then once a month, flip things up and try some new things. Try one new recipe. Go on to Pinterest and find something that you think might be a good fit for your family. This gives you a chance to scratch that itch of something new while limiting how often you do it. If it works out, add that to the list of favorites. If it doesn't, for instance, the corn pudding that I made this past weekend, that was gross. Toss the recipe, just like I did. I recommend using a monthly calendar. You can go on to a calendar website, go on Google, print a calendar, and each week write in what those meals are. Again, it's not set in stone that you have to cook tacos on Monday and spaghetti on Wednesday. You can flip it around if you're just not feeling what is on that date. The last one that I want to talk to you about is prioritizing getting out of debt. And it's something that we really have focused on in our family while we still put the usually recommended amount of 15 to 20% towards retirement. So we're not dipping into that in order to do this. But for instance, when we first got married, it was paying off the car loan, and then it was making sure that we didn't have to take out another car loan. And then about halfway through our marriage and went into this home, it's when we decided to really try to pay off our home as quickly as we could while still living a comfortable life. And prioritizing that debt has been important to us. So think about this. Why are you here watching this video? If you're trying to reduce your cost of living or live below your means, what is the main reason? And it's going to vary depending upon that person. It might not be debt for you. It could be that the cost of actually living is just extremely high where you are, or it could be that you have a high mortgage, or you have car payments, or you have a lot of unsecured debt. If you aren't sure what unsecured debt is, it is typically things like credit card balances. Investopedia.com says that unsecured debt are actually loans that are not collateralized. They generally require higher interest rates. That's where you usually get into the 20% plus in credit card interest rates because they offer the lender limited protection against default. One thing that I have really heard recently, and I thought was absolutely shocking, was the average car payments being over $1,000. So I did a little digging and I found an article on Edmunds.com that said rising auto loan interest rates drive share of 1,000 plus monthly payments to record levels in Q4, according to Edmunds. It says that analysts say consumers who purchase a car today are at risk of going underwater on car loans down the road as financing costs rise, used car values decline. This was from January 4th of 2023, and it said financing a new or used vehicle is growing more expensive than ever for consumers, according to car shopping experts at Edmunds. New data shows that interest rates are continuing to rise. So just to give you a little bit of an idea here, interest rates climbed to 6.5% in Q4 of 2022. And if you look at Q4 of 2021, so year over year, it was 4.1%. And then it says also a greater share of consumers are committing to monthly payments of $1,000 or more. That is crazy to me. I cannot imagine paying $1,000 or more for a car in the area I'm in. Of course, the cost of living is different in different areas, but that just seems to blow my mind. So prioritizing getting back out of that debt is important. I think that we really need to be honest with ourselves about whatever debt we're in. I've been there. I did this in my 20s. I had that debt and that stress and that overwhelm. It holds you hostage. And then not even necessarily it's people who don't have, there are people with higher incomes that still have debt, and they have the disposable income to put towards it and get rid of that debt, but they don't. And so what I'm starting to see, and it hurts my heart, is I'll see people who have debt with perhaps maybe their low reoccurring monthly payments, student loans, etc., at a reasonable interest rate. And since those payments are so low in comparison to their other bills or their income, they keep paying them and living a luxurious life. Or say when skipping one trip or a few large purchases and focusing on that debt would be enough to eliminate that debt in very quickly. But when crap hits the fan, which it inevitably does, then those people will have panic attacks, because they realize their stable income might become unstable. Whereas if the debt was gone and a cushion was in place, there would be a big difference in the reaction to such a situation. Debt keeps you in a cycle. It goes over and over again until you decide to make a change. It keeps you from reaching those big goals. It shows in all aspects of your life. You'll get more stressed out at work when your boss is in a bad mood because you think the bad mood is about you, because you have all these pressures and these bills to pay. Maybe you're going on a job interview and you come off as desperate because you really need this job in order to pay more of these bills. When you can reduce that debt, you can walk into your job with confidence. You can walk into an interview with confidence, which exudes. And you aren't as worried about the hammer to drop because you've set yourself up financially where you can weather those storms, which inevitably do come. And I kind of equate it to a foundation. I mean, ultimate freedom is in the choice to make. When you have a solid personal foundation, just as, say, faith gives you a good foundation for a moral way of life, being debt-free gives you a financial freedom of choice from the hamster wheel. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you back for more videos.